Welcome to the 100 Master Coaches series featuring master coaches from around the world. Let's journey together on this 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Diane Bonneau is a highly skilled executive coach who has over 20 years of experience working with companies of all sizes and industries. Diane demonstrates her commitment to authentic leadership and lifelong learning through her extensive involvement in the coaching community. She is past president of the ICF Calgary Chapter and has participated on various ICF global committees and advisory boards. Now on to the show.
Hello, and welcome to the 100 Master Coaches show. This is Coach Mel, and today we have a special guest from Calgary, Canada. She is Diane Bonneau. Give her a big hand, everybody. Welcome to the show, Diane.
Thank you, Mel. It's a pleasure to be here and to be in this dialogue with you. I really appreciate it.
Same. It is our pleasure to host you. We're going to jump in. Tell us how it all began for you, your coaching journey, Diane.
Well, it started in a way that was very humble. I lived in a very small community of about 5,000 people. Mm-hmm. And that's where I did my coach training. I was living in that small community. My coaching was with CoachU, so it was online. Yeah. And I moved to Calgary almost towards the end of my training. And I had no network here. I didn't really know anybody. So I was really starting from ground zero.
Got it.
And I tried starting my business and it wasn't really going anywhere just because I didn't really have the skills to start a business at that point. So I accepted a job doing training in corporate hotels across Canada. And I thought, while I do that job, I'll build my business.
Yeah.
I got most of my clients in the hotel industry.
That's great.
And after mostly the leaders in the hotels.
Yeah.
And after 3 years, I decided to quit my job. And I quit my job on August 31st. And the date is significant because 9/11 happened 11 days later.
Oh, wow.
And I lost all my clients.
Okay.
So I didn't have my job anymore and I lost all my clients. So I had to start over. So it took about a year to relaunch. And I was starting to work on my resume to get a real job. And I thought to myself, when I'm working in one of those towers, downtown Calgary, I'll ask myself the question, what are 2 or 3 things I could have done that could have made a difference that I didn't have the courage to do?
Wow.
And I decided to do those 3 things before I mailed a resume out. And that was a turning point.
That's so fascinating that you say that, because it does take courage and it does take our inner being to be in sync with what we want to do. And that's what you were aligning yourself with, those 3 points. I'm just curious what are
the 3 points?
What maybe 1 or 2 of them that you would like to share.
One of the points was talking to the people I knew and asking them to refer me.
Got it.
And another one was going to networking events. Because I'm a bit of an introvert. Yeah. And going to an event where I don't know anybody, I didn't know, what do you say to people? Yeah. How do you deal with that? And I had a coach at the time, and she said to me, what is one thing you don't want me to ask you to do? And I said to her, if you tell me yours, I'll tell you mine. And mine was public speaking. So I joined Toastmasters. And I entered competitions, and that's where I got my first clients. Yeah.
Wow. It's just fascinating that you kind of go against the grain kind of thing with yourself, right? If you don't like meeting people, you push yourself to go out. And if you don't like starting a conversation, you push yourself to join Toastmasters. I applaud you for that.
Mhm.
I mean, where is that courage coming from, Diane? I'm just wondering.
Do you know what happens, Mel? I think that, and I often say this when I mentor coaches,
Yeah.
is that when I decided to become a coach, it
Yeah.
was a calling for me.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
I realized that I had to feed my fear that calling, that when the fear came up,
Yeah.
I had to say to myself, this is not about you. This
Wow.
is about what you're called to do. That's more important.
Mm, mm.
And it's what I continually tell myself. I still tell myself that when I face a situation where I'm going like, oh, I don't know, am I good enough? Do I, I don't know how to do that. And it's like, no, this is your job. You have to go do this.
Yeah. So you still have those little voices that tell you, Diane,
Mhm.
not good
Who
enough.
doesn't? Who doesn't? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes they
Yeah.
are loud and sometimes very disturbing, isn't it? And
Yeah, they are
demoralizing as
disturbing.
well. And then we kind of pick ourselves up and say, we've got to face them. And
Mhm.
And one of the things I tell my younger coaches is that we've got to be true to the things that we ask of our coaches.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
one of the things important for me is the word brave. So I've often put myself
Yeah.
on the forefront of brave because I don't
Yeah.
want to be hypocritical about things, right? And when I'm asking a
Mhm.
challenging question to my coachee, asking for their response of bravery, and imagine if I was not brave myself. So yeah, it's a bit of a
Mhm.
mirror back to me.
Yeah, it is. I think you're using brave the same way I use courage.
That's why we're talking to each other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and having so much fun. Deanne, I am really wanting to understand, and also for the audience sake, what happened before coaching? If we kind of went back before you decided to become a coach, what industry were you in before that?
That's a really interesting question because I worked in human resources for a number of years in
Mhm.
different organizations.
Got it.
And I took 10 years off from working in the corporate world, moved to British Columbia, had an
Mhm.
organic farm with horses and acreages of fruit trees and vegetables.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
taught Tai Chi and meditation.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I did
And
that for 10 years.
yeah, you kind of walked away from that perfect scene. Often people kind of aspire to have when they retire. I'm just saying.
Well, I agree. But you know what happened is that from being on the farm and the personal experience I had of myself, it was so different than working in a corporation and
Yes.
being in the city and that. I wanted to bring who I had become to the world. I wanted to bring my experience of the corporate world, my experience of being in nature and being in alignment, and
Mm,
bring that into my coaching.
mm, wow. One day I hope that you will share that part and maybe even pictures somehow to to us. I would love to see that with horses on
You want
top
a
of that.
picture of me on
Wow.
the tractor?
Amazing. So HR, 10 years on this farm.
Yeah, I just found just a new way of being with that experience, of being in
Yeah,
nature and
very nice. There must be some part of that that goes into your coaching. Yes, I am presuming it's that stillness, is that.
through that experience on the farm, I became very intuitive and somewhat of an empath.
Mm,
So I use that a lot in my coaching. I feel
mm,
that when I'm in dialogue with the client, that I allow what wants to come through versus it coming from my brain type of thing.
yeah,
It's not so much thinking, it's a process of allowing information to come through.
Yeah, I
Does
get
that
that.
make sense?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I get that so deep, because just yesterday I was on a call, and I'll share this with you and everyone else listening.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a question on that call saying, how do you enhance your intuitive self, right, as a coach?
Mm-hmm.
And what you just said made a lot of sense, because we kind of allowed this to kind of shut down for a moment
Mm-hmm.
and allow our other resonance that comes up from, we say, our gut or our inner voice to just rise up and be of
Guide the way.
service.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like something shows up in the space, right? We don't have to ask ourselves, so what's the next smart question I can ask? It's like it
Exactly.
shows up in the space, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Diane, tell us a little bit more about the couple of first few years as a coach. You did already mention about how hard it was, networking and all that, but tell us a little bit more so that
Mm-hmm.
the audience would understand your perspective of that journey of becoming not just a coach, but also an entrepreneur.
Yes, exactly. So, well, we know the first few years because I've already mentioned it, and
Yeah.
there was a huge learning curve to that.
Mm.
With the training, I practiced my public speaking skills
Yes.
because I was doing training, right?
Yeah.
And I gained a lot of confidence because I was traveling all over, and I have no sense of direction. I would get lost everywhere driving, and but I gained a lot of confidence through that.
Yeah.
And then I had it in me to actually approach organizations to propose my coaching skills. And something that I realized that I had to shift in my mind is, for a lot of coaches, it's hard to sell their services, to sell themselves. If I was to sell you, it would be easy, but selling me is a different story. But I shifted, there's something that shifted in my mind that I realized that when I was meeting someone, I wanted to know what they wanted to work on, and I could see a path for it. And then I wanted to work with them because I knew how I could help. It wasn't selling my services. It was selling, I can help you with that. And that was easy to do. So I would go to an organization and say, so what are some of the challenges you have right now? What are you trying to resolve? And I would see a path forward. And it was like, well, we could do this, we could do that. And, in the beginning, I'd say, let's do it as a pilot project. Let's take on 3 or 4 people. And in 6 months, let's review how it goes.
Yeah.
And then they would give me more clients. So one of my big breakthroughs was in a construction company, and they were building like high rises and hospitals, like a big construction company.
Yeah.
And they gave me 10 clients. I was in that company for 10 years. And when those people left, they recommended me to other construction companies. So I was in 4 construction companies. And I would do a lot of shadow coaching. I would go on site and watch how they worked together, how they collaborated or not, how they worked with other consultants and stakeholders.
Yeah.
And some of the earlier projects, projects, it's very rare they finish on time. They finished 2 months early.
Wow.
And that was like a little miracle in itself.
Congratulations.
So I built my reputation. Well, thank you. But I built my reputation in the construction industry for the first 10 years probably. And I even had to hire 5 other coaches to help with the projects.
Definitely. In building.
Yeah.
No pun intended,
yes.
but because you were
exactly.
you were building the connections, the stronger communication between them. You were building their lives, the transformation of that.
Yes, and how they work together. Because I realize that, because I do a lot of shadow coaching still now, I realize how much people don't notice each other's body language or the subtext that's going on. And they think they have an agreement, and there is no agreement, but they're missing all the subtle messages in the conversation,
Yeah, fantastic. Perhaps you would like to give us an example of a situation on the site, because I know that there could be potential conflict on the site, right? People reading, as you say, each other wrongly. It's like,
That's it.
I told you what to do, and they did it differently. So could you give us a live one here?
There are a lot of live ones, but one in particular that comes to mind
Yeah.
was subcontractors working on a large project.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have meetings every Monday and talk about coordinating who's going to go, like, you know, do the electrician go first or the painter
Yeah.
goes first, and
Yeah.
when does it have to be done by, and stuff like that. And people were assigned when they had to do certain things and how, in what order it had to be done. And they'd just go like kind of agreeing and kind of not. And then the next Monday morning, people were behind and say, well, I couldn't go because this guy didn't do that. Well, I didn't have enough guys. There were always a lot of excuses.
Yeah.
And we kind of I worked with the superintendent and the project manager with them to say, what if you were to have a conversation with them and put on a whiteboard, what's going to work for you guys?
Yeah.
This is the result we need to reach. They're part of the decision making. And when they do it right, you have to acknowledge it. You have to congratulate them. You have to make visible the behaviors you want to see.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. And something else I focused on was having them know everybody's name. And as they toured the site, name those people and say, oh, I notice how you helped such and such carry that ladder to get it out of the way. Like, make visible what you see that you appreciate. That creates collaboration. And some of those sites went super well as a result of that. Yeah.
Acknowledgement goes a long way, isn't it? Apart from the other strategies that you help them with, acknowledgement, that we're working not just as we can name them the third-party suppliers, right? Like in any business, there is this versus that they have a name, which means we personalize it. And in a sense, we break down the walls between us. And that is so beautiful.
Yes, between the boss and employee too, you know.
Yeah. Especially in our world of diversity and the challenges with equality today. There is all these walls that have been perhaps put up over many years, and we've been taught that these walls must exist. And with coaching, it helps break down those walls and to be able to see each other as we truly are.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
You did say in the pre-show, Diane, that you've been doing coaching for the last 24 years.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you to kind of synthesize those years and pull out your top 3 insights.
My top 3 insights. I think in terms of my own learning.
Yeah.
Is that the question? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think courage is probably at the top.
Yeah.
Having courage.
Yeah.
First of all, to launch as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And courage as well when we're working with clients to name what we notice, even if it's uncomfortable for us.
Nice.
And when you're working with senior leaders, it's even more true, because sometimes you know, they have status, they're used to respect, and there's got to be permissions in place to allow for that kind of feedback.
Yeah, very nice.
So that would be a really big one. For a coach to be successful, so important to learn not only the coaching skills, but what does it need to make a business work? Bookkeeping, networking, marketing, and to diversify their practice. I always say, don't put all your eggs in one basket, because if you work for only one company and anything happens in that company, you're starting over.
Yeah.
So that's really important.
Yeah.
And I think another one is to trust the process. because whatever happens in the coaching is what needs to happen for the client and for you as well, because there's kind of an unwritten agreement that we're partnering and we're in this together. So I can't even say how much I have learned from my own clients. It's not just them learning from me or learning about themselves. It's what I learned through them, personally, professionally. It's incredible. That's what makes this profession so exciting. It's we're helping people, but we're learning and growing as well.
Definitely, yeah. Especially when we are getting into an industry like for you, you went into the building industry with perhaps not much knowledge about what's happening around there, I'm assuming.
It's a niche market that found me,
And that's so fantastic, because I hear some coaches ask the question, and it's a valid one. And they say, but Mel, I don't have that experience in this industry, right? I was from another industry, right? How can I coach them? What's your response to that?
I was going to say, what's your response? I actually don't really believe in niche markets. I know from a marketing perspective, they say it's so much easier to market yourself if you have a niche, but I like diversity.
Yeah, that's so good.
Right? Yeah. So, and I think if you're going to have a niche market, it finds you.
Whoa, that is a big one.
That's kind of how I look at it, because I didn't expect to find construction. I mean, if I go back to my childhood, I used to plan construction sites all the time. Maybe there's a connection there. I don't.
Okay, I'll tell you mine. Mine is if we think that we've got to know something about the industry, or at least know how it operates and all that, then we feel like we are the expert. Right?
So when we curious.
Yeah, when we feel like we're expert, then we're like, oh yeah, I know what you're saying. And we may sometimes even cut our coaches short, right? We may even be tempted to tell our little story about the industry.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely. You're right about that. Yep. Yeah. And then you're less curious.
Less curious as well. Yeah. We don't trust the process, because it is by trusting the process, as you said, that if we walk into any building site, it will be us trusting that the coachee has the answer. The coachee is the one that is able to help herself.
Another aspect of that too is that when you're entering an industry like that, it's as if the coaching's focus is on the tactical aspect of the business or of what's happening for the leader.
Yeah.
I actually really like to focus on helping them develop personally. I'm very focused on vertical growth right now and adult stages of development in that.
Yeah.
And that's where my interest is in working with leaders, is helping them develop and grow in that way. The tactical and the feedback and all that, that's all horizontal growth. It's all the skill sets and what it takes to be a good leader. But I think that the world that we live in right now requires us to wake up and to grow up.
That's so good.
Right?
It's true. It's true. And grow up fast.
And grow up fast. Yes. Yes, I agree.
And not to say that the horizontal is not important, because sometimes we're brought into the coaching scenario because of the horizontal feedback, right? They say, oh, so-and-so leaders got to improve with how they motivate their staff, right? And we realize that behind that, there could be some vertical growth, right? Because it is perhaps affecting the way they choose to be with their people.
Yes, the way they show up in terms of their leadership skills is what they know.
Yeah.
That's what they know, because we're always doing the best that we can in every circumstance. So when we're talking about vertical growth, we're looking at growing the person so that they see a different way of being in the world, or a different way of exhibiting those skills, right?
Absolutely. And Diane, in today's super fast-paced world, very different perhaps from 24 years ago when you started in coaching. What do you think are the new ways of being that leaders today need to rise up, as you say, to that bigger expectation of them?
Well, I think I'm going to give you an answer that you've probably heard a few times already in your conversations with other coaches.
So good.
But for leaders to learn coaching skills, I think has become a priority. The people who work in organizations, they want feedback. They want to grow. They want to learn. They want to be challenged. And they don't just want to be told what to do and given their work in small increments. They want the big picture. They want input. They want to contribute to decision making. They want to know what they're contributing to. And I think that's done through coaching.
I so agree.
And then the vertical growth, I think a lot of people, I think that's the second area that needs to happen, and needs to happen fast. And I don't know that a lot of leaders even think about that. I don't think that's where their attention is. I think our attention is there because we're always staying leading edge and reading all this stuff and attending courses, and we're always on that learning path, right? For leaders, they're focused on the vision, the strategy, the results, the bottom line, the people they're managing. That's not where their attention is. So I think it's a place where we can challenge them, and that they welcome.
They do. And I guess more so when they see that the vertical growth has an impact or a factor in to even bottom line, right? When leaders shift and leaders transform and experience this growth within themselves, wow, magic happens.
It does. And I don't know if you're familiar with Leadership Circle or not, but one of the things that they talk about, and that Keegan talks about, is being subject to something when you're emotionally caught up in something, and where something is object, where you can look at it outside yourself. It's easier to find solutions when you're not emotionally invested in something and can't see the front and the back of it.
So good. As you have come through these years, and as you look back through that journey, if there's one thing that you could do differently, what would that be?
I've thought about that a few times in my life, and I don't think I would change anything, which may be a strange answer. But I think that everything that I am and everything that I know and everything that I've become is because of the life experiences I've had, the people I've met, the hardships I've had. I think they were all necessary to where I landed. And as a child, I said this earlier, as a child, I always felt I had a calling and that I didn't know in what capacity I would serve. But I was already called to serve quite young. And I would get these jobs and I'd go, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. And then when I found coaching, it was, hallelujah, this is what I've been looking for. And everything I lived through was for this.
Wow.
So I wouldn't change anything.
I've heard this of one of my coaches. She said, it's like a coming home to me. And when you have found that you felt, it would just express the best of you. And I guess it is for you. Coaching, this way of being, this way of serving, you came full circle. to
I
yourself.
did. And
Yeah.
I feel that my best self is when I am a coach, is when I am in that
So good.
in that stance,
Yeah.
And when I go back into my life, sometimes I go, if you used who you are as a coach in these instances, you wouldn't get into so much trouble.
I can attest to that. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, but we're still human, we're not perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a brand new world ahead of us, and requires bravery and courage, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think the future of coaching would be like, Diane?
Well, I hope that the future in coaching does not become an app on your cell phone.
Well, there
I
are
hope.
apps. There are apps today.
I know there are. They exist.
They exist.
But I hope that's not the future.
Got it. Tell us more.
Yes. The future of coaching, I hope there's more coaching in organizations, not just for the leaders. Well, I hope that coaching starts at the top, first of all, not at mid-range, and that it doesn't connect to the senior leaders. But I hope there's more team coaching. So that more people learn to work better together, to be more respectful, and that they grow together. I think it would really create a bond between people on teams if we could see more of that. There's some of it happening right now.
Yeah.
But I think that's a real nice path to the future.
So good. Yeah.
And maybe in government too, more in government. Less ego, more serving.
I like how you just threw that in. That is so good.
I know.
I totally agree.
Well, I say that because I did work on Parliament Hill at one point in Ottawa. So, and my father was a politician.
We need it in every aspect of our lives, and in government, even in schools, I reckon, and the systems that are in place that maybe can systemically have some sort of coaching in there as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, just to move things forward, right? There's growth that needs to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So Diane, we've come almost to the end of our lovely time together.
It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's mine. So good. I'm going to ask you for that master wisdom that you like to share with the young coaches coming in our industry.
Something that I think is really important and that I think we don't see enough of is that as a new coach, I think it's so important that they have a mentor coach to guide them along the way.
Yeah.
To give them feedback on their coaching, to help them with starting their business. I mean, if you work with a mentor coach, they have that experience. They've been there. And some coaches say, should I wait till my training is done? And when should I hire a coach? And I think hire a coach as soon as possible, because the moment you start your training, you should start coaching to practice what you're learning.
Yeah.
And you're going to run into roadblocks. You're not going to know what to do with some clients.
Yeah.
Mentor coach can help you with that. I mean, you need support. You can't do this alone.
Yeah, I love that.
You really can't do this alone. I still have a coach. In 24 years, I've had 7 coaches. I still have a coach now. Sometimes I stop for a year, but I still need a coach because we run into all kinds of situations that we need to think it out loud and get somebody else's thinking around it. But that would be one of my pieces of wisdom as an MCC coach.
Thank you. And as our final question, it is that powerful question that you want to leave to every person that hears this podcast. what would be that powerful question that you would love to ask
That's actually
them?
an easy one for me.
Okay.
That question would be, what is courage asking of you right now? What is that edge that you're just going like, I can't do this, or I'm afraid to do this, but that without that, the next thing is not possible.
Woo.
And to be able to do that, you have to know why, like, you know, if it's a coach, what is your calling? Because you have to, the answer is, this is not about me. This is bigger than me. This is about what I'm called to do. But what is courage asking of you right now?
So there you have it. What is courage asking of you right now? Fantastic. Diane, this is the time of our podcast where we ask you, tell us how we can connect with you on social media and the like.
So through LinkedIn, under my name, Diane Bonneau, and through my email address, diane.bonneau@maslowleadership.com. And if you want to follow us on maslowleadership.com as well, that is always very welcome.
Fantastic. And with that, I say thank you so much, Diane, for being on the show. You have given so much more than I asked for. It's sharing with us your wisdom, sharing with us your life. So thanks once again.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. It's been great being in this conversation with you.
This is Coach Mal signing out on the 100 Master Coaches. And today, of course, with Diane with me. Catch you on the next series. Goodbye for now.
You have been watching the 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Brought to you by Catalyst Coach. www.catalystcoach.live. We will be right back with our next Master Coach on the 100 Master Coaches series.